Hello BookTube. Today on Tag Monday, I'm going to be doing the X tag created by Jim of Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. This is the next to penultimate, or the penultimate, depending if there's going to be a separate Y and Z tag or just a Y and Z tag at the end. So there's either one to go or two more to go. Ordinarily, I do these tags on Tuesday for Tag Tuesday, but I mentioned in the comments to the X tag that I couldn't wait to do it. And Jim said, well, why don't you start on doing it on Monday? And I could probably do it on Monday. And honestly, I'm going to be doing the Y or Y and Z tag next Monday too, because I have family coming over on the 9th, on next Tuesday. So makes sense to do these on Monday instead of on Tuesday. I might do a different tag tomorrow if I have time. But anyway, let's get started on the tag itself. X is for xylophone. What is your ringtone? The standard ringtone on my phone. I don't actually know what it is. I don't pay attention to that. I have been thinking of changing my ringtones for some people, but I've never gotten around to doing that, and I don't actually understand how to operate a phone beyond the standard answering it or texting. X is for X-Files. Are you a Mulder or a Scully? So the X-Files, if you don't know, is an American television series that was quite popular in the 90s and I think ended in the early 2000s. And it starred two FBI agents, Fox Mulder, played by, I'm blanking, David Duchovny, and Dana Scully, played by Gillian Anderson, who are tasked with investigating weird and mysterious cases that invariably have a supernatural or unnatural, or at least what to most people would be supernatural or unnatural explanations. Fox Mulder is the one who's quicker to jump to the supernatural or paranatural or enhanced natural explanation, while Scully is the more skeptical, the more there's got to be a rational explanation to this. I never really got into the X-Files. I think I watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes in my life, and when I was waiting to watch something else, and the show really never did it for me. So anyway, but back to the question. So Mulder believes in the paranormal and extraterrestrials, and Scully is skeptical and looks for a more rational explanation for strange phenomena. So, am I a Mulder or a Scully? For the most part, I'm a Scully. I'm more skeptical in the real world of supernatural or paranatural or paranormal or extranormal or occult explanation for phenomena. At the same time, though, in terms of my reading, I'm much more of a Mulder. I much prefer a more fantastical, a much more science fiction, fantasy in my reading than I do more realistic stuff. Although there is contention in that, which is par for the course for me. Next question. X is for Xenomorph. This relates to the aliens in the Alien franchise. Who or what is your favorite alien? I'd have to say... I think the Minbari from Babylon 5. I think they're my favorite aliens. They're quite interesting, quite interesting. I mean, they're interesting culturally, just everything about them that I quite like. I'm quite interested to see how J. Michael Straczynski reimagines the Minbari in the upcoming Babylon 5 reboot. Babylon 5 is a American science fiction space opera series in the early 90s that shares quite a bit with Deep Space Nine. It's set on a space station, although in this case it's basically the United Nations in space. Although there are some issues with that, and hopefully the reboot does address that, in that all of the members in this little UN in space need to be on their own and not necessarily the bit players being lumped into the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. Anyway. And also, by the way, the Minbari should have won the Earth Minbari War. And just go with that. But anyway. Next question. X is for Malcolm X. Have you read his autobiography? I think I've read snippets or excerpts of his autobiography here and there. I've never read his entire autobiography, either for a class or for pleasure. I do have a biography of Malcolm X, The Dead Are Rising, by Lesson Tamara Payne, which is quite good. So I don't know if that would preclude me eventually picking up the autobiography, or if I'll just stick with The Dead Are Rising. We shall see. X is for Christmas. What is your favorite Christmas book? I guess I'd have to go with A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. It's, I think, the only book I have that is explicitly about Christmas or set in the Christmas season. And of course, it is foundational for Christmas as we celebrate it in the West today, or at least in the English-speaking world. So, X is for X-Ray Spex, the famous English punk band. What is your favorite punk band? Mine is Susie and the Banshees. I first discovered them on the soundtrack of Batman Returns. They sing Face to Face. And I eventually found more stuff by them. I'm not entirely sure how, but I do remember going to, or I guess I had Susie and the Banshees in the back of my mind, and when I went to St. Edward's to tour the campus, my mom agreed to pretty much take me to Book People in Austin. It's the big, great, glorious independent bookstore in the heart of downtown Austin. And so we went to Book People. I picked up about 2 books, and then we noticed across the street there was a record store, Waterloo. And we went in there, and I think I picked up 1 or 2 CDs from Susie and the Banshees. And I listened to them and just loved them. And I've loved the band Susie and the Banshees ever since. Some of my favorite songs are Peekaboo, Dear Prudence, The Last Beat of My Heart, Ornaments of Gold, Scarecrow, Arabian Nights, Cities in Dust, Red Light, Lunar Camel, Hybrid, Tenet, just pretty much everything. I love them. X is for Xenocide. Is there a book you have read which covered a Xenocide? Now, this prompt first appeared in the earlier version of the X alphabet tags, in which Jim strung a number of letters together to make a tag. So there were 4 tags, I think, and 4 or 5 tags in that one, rather than each letter being represented individually. And for X was Xenocide. And for that one, I went with Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, which culminates in the eradication of the alien species that has been at war with Earth for decades. And I don't really want to give that answer here. So I was racking my brain over what other cases of Xenocide I've seen in fiction. And it suddenly, as I was beginning to set up to do this video, Space Opera by Catherine and Valenti. Space opera is Eurovision in space. But there's a caveat to that. If you lose, if you come in last place and you are a new species, a species that is just being introduced to this insane interstellar community, your species will be eradicated. They will wipe out your entire species. And in space opera, Earth is threatened with this Xenocide. And there's an infuriating bit of whataboutism that's played there. And of course at the end, the humans aren't wiped out. But there are a number of species mentioned as being wiped out. One that's basically a planet of cloned Hitlers. And then, of course, the reason for this insane competition is that there was a conflict called the Sentience Wars, which saw a number of species being genocided. So I think I'll go with Space Opera by Catherine and Valenti. X is for X Certificate. What was the first adult film you saw? Now, for this prompt, I'm going to go with R-rated. I know there are levels above R rating, but I'm just going to stick with R. And for that, I'm going to go with Conan the Barbarian, the 1982 Oliver Stone and John Milius film. It is obviously one of the films that launched Arnold Schwarzenegger into superstardom, and it's about a Conan who his village of Sumerians was wiped out. He was sold into slavery. He eventually became a gladiator, escaped, and became a thief. And when he re-encountered the people who destroyed his village, he then goes on a quest for revenge that sees him eventually killing the wizard who led the assault on his home village. I was 4, maybe 5 when I first saw it, which is what kind of, I think, pointed me into Conan the Barbarian, even though I'm not entirely sure how exactly it's adult. But yeah. Although I don't know if I watched, like when I first watched it, it was the edited for television on like the Beastmaster station, or if it was uncut from, hey, Beastmaster's on. If you don't know, in the 80s when HBO and TBS were first starting, I guess they had a very limited movie selection, and so they would play the same movies over and over ad nauseum. And since both of them have B's in their call sign, they went with Beastmaster. And I guess Beastmaster played quite heavily, which would explain. I think we actually had Beastmaster on VHS as well, or taped. But anyway, next prompt. What was the first book you read which you would consider unsuitable for children? Mysterious Skin by Scott Heim. It is a book about child abuse and of how two young men separately come to terms with the child abuse they suffered at the hands of their Little League coach when they were much younger. One believes he was abducted by aliens and has translated his experiences as an alien abduction, and the other one has become a promiscuous gay hustler. And it is incredibly hard and brutal, and I'm rather surprised I actually made it through the book when I read it when I was 17 or 18. It is a hard read. X is for X marks the spot. Have you read a book about buried treasure? Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I think that's the only one that comes to mind. And to completion. X is for X-Men. Yes. Do you have a favorite character from the X-Men comics or films? So if you don't know, the X-Men are a superhero team in the Marvel Universe. The X-Men are notable for the fact that rather than their powers coming from an external source, they're born with their powers. And the reason why Stan Lee created the X-Men was because he grew tired of constantly having to create new explanations for why characters got their powers. It's basically just easier to say they were born with it. And it is. And it has led to quite a lot of interesting drama in the Marvel Universe. So the X-Men are a team of young adults founded by Professor Charles Xavier, who leads the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, which is a school for mutants. And Xavier teaches his kids how to control their powers, and also inoculates them, or sort of inducts them into his beliefs that humans and mutants can live together in harmony in the Marvel Universe. There is a massive amount of bigotry against mutants on the part of ordinary humans. Opposing the X-Men are a slew of villains, both human and mutant, and my favorite, and I do love the X-Men, they are one of my favorite superhero teams. I used to collect them all the time, although I never actually subscribed to them. But my favorite X-Men are, and I've got two, and no, one of them is not Wolverine. I actually don't quite understand the obsession with him. He is really not one of my favorite X-Men. My two favorite X-Men are Storm, Aurora Monroe. She is a mutant who has the ability to control the weather. And my other favorite is Emma Frost, the White Queen. She started off as a villain, one of the leaders of the Hellfire Club, a group of incredibly wealthy mutants who sought to use their positions to further enrich themselves and to eventually take over the world. She eventually became a more heroic character in the later 80s and early 90s before becoming essentially the Xavier of Generation X, the second generation of a young mutant team. After Generation X, she eventually became a member of the X-Men, starting in 2001, and she's largely been an X-Man ever since. And Emma Frost's power is that she is a high-order telepath, not quite at the same level as Xavier or Jean Grey, but close enough. She also has the ability to transform her skin or her body into organic diamond. So Storm and the Emma Frost are my two favorite X-Men characters. X is for Xylophone, the art of burning an image onto wood. Do you have any examples of this art? No. X is for xenophobia. Have you been shocked by any xenophobia you have encountered in your reading? Oh, good Lord, the xenophobia in the Marvel Universe. Oh, Lord. It's insane. Also, some of the xenophobia depicted in, like, say, Naruto or within the text of the series. Is there anywhere else? Oh yeah, and James Bond, the James Bond literary series, the books by Ian Fleming. Good Lord, the man was a xenophobe. Bond. So X is for X Factor. Do you have a hidden talent? Not really. I mean, not in the sense of I could appear on X Factor. So we'll just go with no. Bonus prompts. X is for Xena, the warrior princess. Tell me about a female protagonist who kicked ass. Storm from the X-Men. Again, Emma Frost, also from the X-Men. Wonder Woman. Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tale. There are quite a few. X is for Xi'an, Xanthi, Xanadu, and a few other places. Have you read anything set in a place beginning with X? In Full Metal Alchemist, there's a country called Xing, which isn't really explored all that much, but there are some characters from Xing who play a role in Full Metal Alchemist. But otherwise, I can't really think of any places with an X, except for maybe the country. No. Yeah, there are a few X countries in the works of Clark Ashton Smith. I think in the Zothic cycle, but the exact titles I'm drawing a blank on for the moment. X is for X-Ray. Have you broken any bones? No. X is for Xerox. Have you read a book which plagiarized another? I don't think so. And so that was the X tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully with another tag video, and if not, I'll see you definitely on Friday with weekly reads. Wednesday and Thursday, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have any videos up because I will likely be either watching The Four Children of the Apocalypse or I will be going to my doctor's appointment. So anyway, so until the next time I see you, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.